On the last video I was talking about stoves, and I mentioned I use my old MSR Whisper Light, and that's this stove right here. Had this stove for 20-something years. It used to be the stove I used for every trip. Now, with the advent of canister stoves and alcohol stoves and all that, I've gone alcohol for most of my trips except for winter. Other than having my Medaglia d'Oro from the hammock, I have to melt a lot of snow. So here's how this one works. So the first thing you do is I got my bottle in here with my fuel. I've given it a few pumps, and I'm getting a little bit of fuel down into the little priming bin down here. All right, then I turn my stove completely off. I'm going to light that fuel. There we go. Now that's going to burn and heat up this whole element and these fuel valves here, and it'll start atomizing. I know that was a big word. That fuel. I have a windscreen. I'm going to put that around just for a minute while that's burning. Okay, so that'll go, and the tricky part is to, when that starts, you can hear it starting to talk, and when that fuel's almost done, I turn the valve and light the stove without having to get a lighter out. Got a little bit of water in there, but I'd start adding my snow and melt it up. And then of course put the windscreen on there. And you want that windscreen on, and you got it all going, and that water's already starting to bubble, and it's just a little bit in there. But that's my powerhouse for winter camping. And one thing about winter camping is a lot of you, it's going to be cold, you know, it'll be down in the 20s, but there may be no snow. But if you're up in snow or you're not used to it, throwing yourself a cheap pair of shades. I make the mistake of not doing this a lot, and there's been times I've been hiking across some lakes with a sleety, icy snow in my face, and I had to pull my hat down like that to walk because it was just pelting my eyes. And even a nice pair of, oh, this kind of lit up the day. Nice pair of goggles. And I carry these. I don't use them a lot. I wish I'd have had them on that frozen lake. The couple times I've had needed them, it was good to have. So looking into that bright snow all day definitely can make you squint. So that's just something to consider as well. But me, most of the time I end up just pulling my hat down. This is the down booty from REI. This too was 30, 35 bucks. I've worn these out just alone in dry snow up here in Minnesota. So in your winter, some of you are going to have snow, some of you are going to not have snow, some of you only get snow once or twice a year. It's liable to be wet snow. This would do you no good. But if you're out and it's real cold and it's totally dry, those synthetic or down booties for around camp, you know, you might get a little muddy and a little moisture. Put those motorcycle things over them or do the best you can. But especially when I first started camping in Minnesota, I would just wear these in the dry snow, and I never got a cold foot. I prefer the mucklucks, but they did me right. If you look in the description box below this video, I will have a link to my playlist. One is called Winter Warmth, and it's all about clothes layering system, a little bit more in detail of what I've been talking about. There's also one about how to try to keep your feet warm for the winter. Goes through a plethora of things from boots to techniques. Some I talked about on here, some things that we haven't talked about yet. The more I think about it, the more there is to winter camping. Just know that your load's going to be a little bigger. Things get a little more critical. I always figure on a solo, if I get hurt, you know, in the summer or, you know, late spring or early fall, if I have to lay out there for the night on the trail without, you know, any help, I'll probably be okay. There gets to be a certain point in winter where that game changes a lot. So, you know, once things start breaking down, A lot of times if one thing goes bad, then a second thing goes bad, then a third thing goes bad, and you're 3 levels of bad in. So you got to take a little more heed. Gets cold at night, and you know, if you're a guy that lives down south or somewhere in the warm climates, you know, 30 degrees, probably pretty cold to you. Here in Minnesota, you know, 0 can be pretty nice for us, but as you know, you start getting down into sub-zeros, it gets critical. It's beautiful, but there's less chance, you know, if I fall in the water and, you know, go through the ice, and if I'm able to get out and don't die, I've got to hopefully have some dry clothes or get a fire started. Some of this stuff just takes practice, you know, and it's fun. Maybe you don't have time, but like I say, the first time you winter camp, don't go too far in. So if you need to bail and get out to your car, you know, don't feel bad about that. You know, build up until you're there. You know, go out for just one night and see if you can sleep warm. One more thing to consider is to get yourself a pair of these Kahtoola ice spikes. Stretch around your boot, go right on there. They're easy to put on and off. I tried in the past, there were things called Yak Tracks. Looks like a little spring, kind of goes on the same way, except it looks like a little spring that crisscrosses under your feet. They never held up for me in the long run. These I've been using for years. I use them all the time. I use them, you know, shoveling snow and working around my house here. If it's going to be icy, and a lot of you guys are going to get icy trails, man, and when you're sliding all day, it just wastes a lot of energy. Your feet are sliding. They're sliding backwards when you walk. Your pussyfoot, and you're going to fall and get hurt. A pair of these, man, will solve your problem. So if it's going to be icy, but you know, you're not necessarily going to need to get snowshoes. You don't live in that kind of climate. A pair of ice spikes, man, they're a game changer in the winter. Just slip them on over the top. Put it on just like that. And that way my foot is not sliding backwards. It's got grip all day long. So they come on and off real easy. Grab the back, pull that thing off. Boom. Kahtoola ice spikes. Maybe ask your kids to give you a pair for your birthday, because you're old. You got everything you need but a pair of these. And I want you to go out and enjoy some winter. You'll feel great about it if you can go out. You know, if 30 degrees is your goal and you go out and you conquer it, you come home and you go, that's pretty good. I need some better footwear, better gloves. Then you know what you got to work on. But you go, I slept good. Feet were a little cold. Maybe I should put that jacket over the foot box. So things like that. It's the only way to know. So now I'm just going to take my down jacket. So I've got the whole thing zipped up. And I'm just going to reach inside. And I'm going to pull the sleeves to the inside. All right, so they're just inside the zipped up jacket. And then I'll put that whole thing over the foot box of my top quilt. So there we are on my X-Bed pad, and that is my Jacks Are Better Sierra Stealth Sniveler, good to about -5. And I just have my jacket over where my feet would be. So pockets are zipped up, sleeves are tucked in, just so that down from that sleeve is inside there, not just dangling free out here. So it's inside doing some work too. I can reach in there and make sure to pull those, you know, over the top of my foot, or that really helps a lot. Now I can do the same thing in the hammock, either just having it laying around my foot box while in the hammock, or with certain hammocks I can put it around the outside of the hammock and it sort of goes around the end of the underquilt, particularly if you've got a partial underquilt, but this is my full length Habanera from Loca Libre. So this is what I was talking about, putting the jacket around the whole end of the hammock. All right, seals any gaps. Then when I'm laying in here and my feet are tucked inside this thing up in here, there's just a little bit more protection around your feet. And it's very effective, and I do it a lot. In fact, almost every time I winter camps, especially starting when it's getting, you know, 20 degrees and below, I'll just do that every time. And I'll wear 1 or 2 pair of loose wool socks. I might wear my possum down socks and then a real loose pair over them. And if I get cold feet, I know it's something to do with my body, or I went to, you know, went to sleep with cold feet, or something's just not right. Generally, feet are pretty good. It's a long night. You know, the days are short, so find myself crawling in to go to snooze time, you know, 7:30, 8 o'clock. 9 maybe if I'm really staying up late partying, and sleeping through the night, and it doesn't get light till 7 o'clock. So it's a long night of your body just burning off everything it's using to stay warm. So I'll see you on the next part. Woo, buddy and budette, and all secure in Sector 7. For now, anyway.